What's up gamers, today we're going to be talking about the Hydro Archon Furina. Furina has been the most anticipated Fontaine character, and I'm here to talk about her kit, playstyle, artifacts, and so much more. If you enjoy videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to join my Discord to help support me. And so since I hate long intros, and I know you probably do too, let's get straight into the video. Furina is a Hydro Sword user that can play the role of being a buffer, sub-DPS character, and a healer. She can act out as any one of these roles by using her ultimate and switching into her two stances, Ozia and Numa. She can switch into any of these two stances using her charge attack. Her basic attack hits up to 4 times doing physical damage, and the damage it does isn't anything too special. But her charge attack does a little bit more damage and lets her switch between her two stances. A way to help you know which stance she's in is by looking at her outfit. When she's in her Numa stance, she will be in a light blue dress. And when she's in her Ozia stance, she will be in a dark blue dress. It's important to note that when entering battle, she will always be in her Ozia stance. Now for her ultimate. Depending on which stance she's in, her ultimate will do different things. If she's in her Numa stance, her ultimate will heal allies. If she's in her Ozia stance, she will deal damage. But let's get into the specifics. In her Numa alignment, she summons a Hydro creature that will heal nearby allies based on her max HP. From what we can see in the trailer, it looks like we shouldn't underestimate its healing. Although it does nice healing, that's really all her ultimate does in this state. But in her Numa state, when you cast her ultimate, she'll do some Hydro damage. She will summon 3 Hydro creatures that will attack an enemy, dealing Hydro damage, scaling off Furina's max HP. These creatures also drain all party members' HP, but only if they have higher than 50% HP. As the creatures drain party members' HP, they increase their damage based on how much HP is being drained. So as you can see, this could be a problem for survivability because Furina is draining the entire team's HP to increase her own damage. That's why having a healer is very crucial. Both her Ozia and Numa creatures' duration is 30 seconds with a 20-second cooldown. But what's good about Furina is that she can change what alignment she's in the middle of casting her skill. For example, if you do a charge attack in the middle of her Ozia skill being active, she will change to her Numa state, making the old creatures disappear and the new ones spawning in with their max duration. Now, Furina is mainly going to be in her Ozia state because when she's in her healing state, you lose out on a lot of damage. It doesn't even generate energy or apply Hydro, so you just wait there patiently as you get healed. So since her damage state applies Hydro, does damage, reduces party members' HP, which helps her with her elemental burst, I think it's fair to say that her Ozia stance is a stance you're going to want to be using all the time. Well, now that you know about her two stances, let's talk about her burst. It does Hydro damage when casted based on her max HP, and it grants the universal revelry state to the team. While in this state, if nearby party members' HP increases or decreases, Furina will gain 1 fanfare point for each % of an HP change. Each fanfare point increases the damage and healing of her allies. The maximum points that she can get is 300 points, and as a percentage, you gain about 60% increase in damage and 24% increase in healing. Just know this number depends on what level your burst is at. Now you can see why losing HP is so important, and if you're in her healing skill and not losing HP, you lose out on a lot of damage buffs. Her burst has a 60 energy cost with a 18-second duration and a 15-second cooldown, and with her having such a low energy cost and a duration longer than its actual cooldown, just shows how busted her burst is. But let's move on to her talent priorities. Her skill and burst are both just as important, so I would advise leveling them up equally. When leveling up her burst, just know you're mainly increasing her buffing potential, and when leveling up her skill, just know you're mainly increasing her healing and her damage potential. Her basic attacks can be left alone, but if you want to level them up, you're free to do so. Now for her passives. Her first Ascension passive makes it so that when the active character receives healing from someone other than Furina, and the healing overflows, Furina will heal a nearby party member for 2% of their max HP once every 2 seconds for 4 seconds. So in short, the game is basically telling you to run her with another healer, and you'll get more healing from her herself. Her second Ascension passive makes it so that for every 1000 HP Furina has, she will buff her skills 2 stances differently. For her Ozia stance, she will get a 0.7 increase in damage dealt, stacking out a max of 28%. And for her Numa stance, it will decrease its healing intervals by 0.4%, stacking at a max of 16% decrease in healing intervals. This is the exact reason as to why you should stack a lot of HP on Furina, but keep in mind those buffs stop increasing when Furina has 40,000 HP or more. But let's move on to her artifact set and best stat priorities. So her best set is the Golden Troop set because the 2-piece increases skill damage by 20%. And as we all know, Furina is going to be doing a lot of damage from her skill. The 4-piece increases elemental skill damage by 25%, and additionally, when the character is not on the field, their elemental skill damage will be increased by another 25%, and this effect will be cleared 2 seconds after taking the field. This set is her best in slot, and there is no other set that can even compare to it. But if you're still struggling to get a good 4-piece, you can always mix and match different 2-piece sets, like 2-piece Heart of Depth and 2-piece Golden Troop, as long as they have good substats. Speaking of stats, in Furina's case, her stat priorities vary depending on which weapon you choose to run on her. If you go for an energy recharge weapon, then go for an HP Sands, but same can be said if you go for an HP weapon. For the Goblet, go HP percent to help her reach 40,000 HP, or you can go for Hydro damage bonus if you already got enough HP from substats or weapons. The Circlet will most likely be crit damage because she ascends with crit rate, so going crit damage would be a very good option. You could also go HP if you need that extra HP, and substats could be crit, HP, and energy recharge. EM is okay, but it's not the best. Try to have around 150 to 180 energy recharge. You don't need a lot because she has a low burst cost, and if you're somewhere in this range, you're good. You will need 40,000 HP, and this will be your goal for maximum buffs and a 1 to 2 crit ratio. Now, since her artifact stats are heavily impacted on the weapon you choose to run on her, let's move on to her best weapons. Now luckily, Furina has a lot of weapons to choose from, and some of them are actually even better than her signature. But let's talk about her signature, Splendor of Tranquil Waters. As a main stat, this weapon gives 88.2 crit damage at level 90, which is just a ton of crit damage, making it easy to build her since she ascends with crit rate. Now, what this weapon does is that when the equipping character's HP increases or decreases, elemental skill damage will be increased by 8% for 6 seconds, stacking at a max of 3 times every 0.2 seconds. And when other party members' HP increases or decreases, the person equipped with this weapon will have a 12% increase in max HP for 6 seconds, stacking at a max of 2. And this triggers once every 0.2 seconds, even if the wielder is off field. As you can see, it's mainly focused on increasing the wielder's max HP and skill damage, proving how beneficial it will be for Furina. Now, this is a good weapon for Furina, but I don't actually recommend going for it because there's some really good alternative options like Jade Cutter and Key of Kajni Suit. But let's start with the Jade Cutter. It gives a ton of crit and 20% HP from its passive, and an attack bonus of 1.2% of the wielder's HP. Now, since Furina is going to be built using HP, this will provide her with a massive attack increase, but Furina scales off HP, so it's kind of wasted. But the 42% crit rate and the 20% HP are what makes it a good option for her. Keep in mind that these two weapons fall off in the fact that they don't provide her with any energy recharge, so when using them, it's important to note that you will need to look for energy recharge as a main stat or a substat, because as we said previously, her artifacts depend on which weapon you choose to run on her. But last but not least, for the 5-star options, we have the Key of Kajni Suit, which I will just call Nilu's weapon just in case I'm butchering the name. Now, this weapon provides you with 66.2 HP as a main stat, but it gives another HP increase of 20% in its passive, which means that it provides the wielder with a 88.2% HP increase, and this amount of HP can get her to around 30,000 HP just by itself, allowing you to switch around with the main stats for a more offensive or energy efficient Furina. You can go HP Sands and Crit Circlet, or HP Circlet and Energy Recharge Sands. As long as you get to the 40,000 HP mark with some substats, you're good. But that's just the amount of HP it gives. This weapon also helps Furina's supportive capabilities, because first, it gives Furina a 0.12% increase in her Elemental Mastery based off her HP. Elemental Mastery isn't the best for her, but it's good depending on the team you want to run her in. But we'll get into that in the team section, so stick around. But it also gives the entire team an Elemental Mastery boost based on Furina's max HP, which is very helpful for the team. That's it for the 5-star options, and in my opinion, Nilu's weapon can be better than her own signature because of how much HP it gives you, allowing you to go for more offensive artifacts. And the Elemental Mastery boost for herself and the team is really helpful. Then her signature weapon would be second place to Nilu's because energy recharge can be a problem, but it gives her a lot of damage, so that's cool. And lastly, Jade Cutter is the last best option. Use it if you don't have any of these 5-star options. Now let's get into the 4-star options. Some of these options can actually be more useful for her than the other 5-star options listed above. Let's start with the Festering Desire. Now this weapon is ancient and unobtainable, so don't freak out if you don't have it, because I don't too. For the people that do have it, listen up. It increases her energy recharge by 45.9% at level 90. At R5, it increases the wielder's elemental skill damage by 32%, which is good for Furina. It also gives her elemental skill a 12% crit rate increase, which makes this weapon a good 4-star pick. Some other options is a Favonia Sword that just straight up gives her energy recharge and for the team. Duckland Assistant can be good because it gives a lot of HP as a main stat, and some EM and energy from its passive. Lastly, a not so free to play friendly option, we have Wolfang. It's an amazing option for Furina as it gives 27.7 crit rate as a main stats, 15% skill and burst damage, and an extra 2% crit rate on her skill and burst when they hit an enemy, stacking up to a max of 4 times. This makes it a very good offensive option, but doesn't provide any HP or energy. So Festering Desire is the best 4-star option, and you can choose between Dockland, Fav Sword, and Wolfang. But I would go for Fav because it helps with her energy needs and the teams as well. If you've been enjoying the video so far, don't forget to like and subscribe and join my Discord to help support me, as I'm a small content creator and you doing all these 3 things will help me out a lot. But let's get into the worst part of the video for F2P players, her constellations. I just want to let you know that Furina is still good at C0, so you don't need to feel pressured to pull for any of her constellations. And with that being said, let's talk about her C1, and in my opinion, this is literally just an insane C1. It basically allows Furina to spawn in with 150 fanfare stacks, and it also increases the max stacks that she can have by another 100. So since fanfare stacks buff the team's damage, you gain a very noticeable buff with just her C1. This scales from a 60% buff to an 100% buff, just from this one constellation. This is, in my opinion, a 10 out of 10 constellation. Her C2 is just broken as well. It increases the amount of fanfare stacks she gets while she's in her burst by 250%, letting her reach her max damage bonus really quickly. And additionally, for each fanfare stack above her limit, increases her max HP by 0.35%, with a max of an 140% increase in max HP. And mathematically, this gives her about 20,000 HP, meaning it will be simple to build her, and depending on which weapon you choose to run on her, you wouldn't need to focus on HP that much. And this means your Furina can do a lot of damage. I rate this constellation a 10 out of 10 because her C1 plus her C2 easily makes her signature weapon her best in slot. Her C3 and C5 are talent level ups for her skill and her burst, allowing her to buff the team more with her burst and can do more damage with her skill. Her C4 gives her 4 energy when her creatures deal damage in her Osseous stance, and if her creatures heal in her Pneuma stance, this procs once every 4 seconds. This is a solid constellation because it helps her with energy, and that's nice to have, but it's definitely not her best constellation, so I'd rate it a 7 out of 10. Now for her C6. This changes her from an off-field sub DPS to her being able to be played on-field. Similar to Yellen C6, when Furina uses her elemental skill, she gets into her center of attention state, where her normal, charged, and plunge attacks are converted into Hydra attacks that can be overridden by another element infusion. And the damage it does is also increased by 15% of her max HP. But that's not all. Depending on which stance she's in, she does different things. When she's in her Osseous stance, every 1 second every normal attack she does will heal all party members by 4% of Furina's max HP for a duration of 2.5 seconds. But don't worry, hitting the enemies again extends the duration of this ability. If she's in her Pneuma stance, her normal, charge, and plunge attack damage will be increased by 12% of Furina's max HP. And when any of those attacks hit an opponent, all characters in your team will lose 1% of their current HP, making her Pneuma state do what her Osseous stance does, and making her Osseous stance do what her Pneuma stance does. But keep in mind that their creatures stay the same. Overall, I rate this constellation a 9 out of 10. But lastly, let's talk about Furina's best team comps. Furina of course looks like she can be played in a lot of different team comps, but she's obviously going to pair well with most, if not all, Fontaine characters, like Neuvillette and Wriothesley. This is because of the HP draining mechanic that all Fontaine characters seem to have. Hu Tao can be paired well with Furina as well because Hydro and Pyro make a good team, and Hu Tao also drains her own HP. Having a healer in your team is good in Furina teams, so basically Yao Yao, Kuki, Bennett, and Kokomi can work well because they have such good healing abilities, and Kuki, Yao Yao, and Baizhu are definitely great for Dendro-related teams if you plan on using Furina in Hyper Bloom and Bloom teams. Plus, Kuki self drains her own HP, making it easy to gain fanfare stacks. Pairing Furina with Xingqiu is great because they both do a lot of damage, and since Furina doesn't apply a lot of Hydro, Xingqiu can help her with that, and you can run a triple Hydro Hu Tao Vaporized team with 3 sub DPS characters, one being Furina, the other being Yellen, the other being Xingqiu, and Hu Tao being the main DPS. Since she works well with Fontaine characters, a Neuvillette Hyper Bloom team wouldn't be so bad, with Nahida, Furina, Neuvillette, and Kuki. You can even replace Neuvillette with Xingqiu or Yellen, but I'm sure there are more teams you could play Furina in because she's very flexible. But let's get into my opinion. In my opinion, she's almost almost a perfect Hydro sub DPS character. She plays her role perfectly and is decently easy to build. I think she's going to be fun to play and I can't wait to pull for her. She's perfectly fine at C0, but her constellations make her amazing. So if you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, subscribing, and joining my Discord. If you want more videos like this, don't worry, they're on their way. Thank you for watching. Bye.